Ethan Ralph. Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
Doing pretty
Let
good.
me I'm trying No, here we go. Sorry, I had to kill the audio. I was listening to the stream there. I guess Null got word that I was about to jump on. He seemed to skedaddle pretty quickly.
Oh.
I don't know how he got word, but yeah, how's it going?
I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good. I do appreciate that you considered me PPP's grandpa, not PPP to be my grandpa. That I do appreciate that because that would have been worse.
Oh, you saw that? Yeah, I
Yes.
mean, you're pretty hefty. I lost a bunch of weight,
Yeah.
so I get to talk a little shit now
No, you can. You're
about
looking
people
good, man.
fatter
I'm
than
glad
me.
to see you're doing good.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. By the way, that was not actually me in the chat. I saw them
I I,
pop, and
I
then they thought that was me. No, it wasn't actually me. But that's why I got sent the link. So whoever
oh
was trolling,
oh
thank you for that, I suppose. But no,
okay.
that wasn't actually me in the chat. It sounded like me at certain points, though. It was a decent impression, but no, my account's like Bob Smith or some shit like that.
Oh
I forget what it is.
yeah.
Um, you just had Null on here
Mm-hmm.
and he said he doesn't like people being accused of being a pedophile without any evidence. Well, then he goes on to call Vito a pedophile and said, he wouldn't mind shooting him, basically. Then he intimates that Dick Masterson is a pedophile right after that, which is just low down and dirty. Sean, I don't know. You didn't really challenge him on that, but I haven't seen any evidence that either one of those guys are pedophiles.
Well, I
Have
mean,
you?
all I can say is Vito's made the tweets, but I know Vito said those are jokes. But that's where you know if you run around saying you like doing something and then you say, "Oh, well, I'm joking," I mean, that's up for people to decide whether or not that's true. I don't
Well,
think
he
I've
did
seen
make
anything
some
from
questionable tweets. I agree with you there.
I don't think I've seen anything from Dick Masterson, but I don't know. I was never involved in the whole world that the sector and any of that stuff back in the day, so I don't know what Noel fully knows. But from the Vito stuff, I could say, yeah, Vito. It's like those are
Yeah,
if
but
he was ever in court, those would be those are some ones he'd have to pull his collar on if he had to answer. But for Dick, yeah, there's nothing I've ever seen that says Dick is. I mean, other than the cuties thing, but that alone isn't enough for me.
so those tweets, and again, I wouldn't have
Mhm.
made those tweets. I do think that they were done to basically joke and troll back. People were already calling him a pedophile then, and so he
Sure.
leaned into it and was like, yeah, whatever. I don't remember the exact tweets, but I remember
Yeah.
seeing them. I remember seeing him doing it, and I was like, no, don't do that. Because they'll be used against you forever, even if you're fucking around, which I believe that he
Mhm.
was. But they'll be used against him forever. So they were ill advised. I think. By the way, he's going to be on my show tonight, so I'll talk to him about it too. But yeah, I would agree with that. But I don't know that Vito and I don't. I mean, I do know. And Dick Masterson, they've never set up a board for pedophiles to commiserate on, like Josh Moon, your past guest. Just that's in his career history. Sean, I don't know if you know
Yeah.
that or not.
I'm aware of those. I'm aware of those comments. Yeah, and I
I
know
mean,
what
he
you're
actually did that. That's not
saying.
a. I mean, what do you think about that?
I mean, it's. I mean, I got as far as what has been said with that. Yeah, I wasn't around for those parts. So yeah, it's. I think that you can make those arguments one way or another, but I don't believe them based on what I know and what I've talked about with Null.
I mean,
Um,
he actually did that.
I
Now,
no, I
that doesn't
understand.
make him a pedophile necessarily. You could say he was a free speech absolutist or whatever.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have done that either. Set up a
hmm
place for
sure.
pedophiles to commiserate. But anyway, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off.
no. I mean, that's the thing, though. I mean, it's one thing if if you want to make the argument of all that, and I understand you can make that argument, and you want to, but I disagree with any of that. That he wanted that to happen, or that was his intended results, or whatever you want to argue with that. But I do
Well,
agree with you. I do agree with you as far as Vito has said. Yeah, he was trying to lean into it, but that's where you get into the idea of like, is that the thing you really want to lean into? It's kind of like if, for example, somebody starts calling me a racist, like, you're right, I'm a racist, and you start screaming every, racial slur you want to. Is that the way you should probably address that matter? No.
no, it's not, and I agree with that. And I saw it when it was happening, and I was thinking, Vito, no, don't do that.
Mhm.
But I also took it as a troll, right? He's trolling
Sure,
back,
sure.
and it's not like to me that's not evidence like setting up a not a room but a message board for pedophiles to commiserate. And it was the stated goal, Sean. I mean, they were segregated off. They wanted to quarantine them off from the main discussion boards and give them their own place, basically, so they wouldn't contaminate the main parts of, what was it, 16 chan, I think,
Are you talking? Well, yeah, I
or
was gonna
9
say, are you
chan.
talking about one of the chans? Because that's what
Yeah,
I'm trying to figure out where you're
yeah, I
going with
am.
that.
Yeah, I
Okay.
am. Yeah. Yeah, it
So
wasn't Kiwi Farms. It was, I think it was a
no,
project simultaneous with that or something. I don't know. I'm not a
yeah,
Chan expert.
and I wasn't following. I don't know enough to know the answer to that question to really comment on it because I didn't really follow it at that point. But I've heard those comments before. I think I've heard you make that statement before. So yeah, it's out there.
Yeah, I mean, it
Um,
happened. I don't even think Null would deny it outright because that did happen. Now he's
hmm,
probably got some excuses, but I mean that did happen. That's not a claim. I mean,
mhm.
there's evidence of it, and screenshots of him talking about it on the board and all that stuff. So it did occur.
Hmm. All right. Well, like I said, I don't
But
know
if
enough.
you don't, yeah, you don't have to comment on it if you don't
Yeah.
want.
No,
But let
I
me.
know, but I'll let you say what you want to say there.
Yeah, I
Um,
appreciate it.
yeah, no, but did you? So I know you know what this we were on today about is Nick and Monty. You know, Monty sued Nick. You know about that whole thing, right?
Yeah, I know a little bit about it.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know what I did see what he exactly said, but it's
Hmm.
been I don't
It's
know,
been a while.
months, a year since I've seen it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do know that he's involved in legal battle
Mhm.
with Monograph. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that yourself? I mean, certainly you're free to talk about that if you want.
Well, the case itself, I don't know. I'm not a big
Hmm.
fan of suing people over what
Hmm.
they said online. I've gotten tied up in court, and people have tried to silence me. There's certain things I can't talk about even now because of that.
Well,
And
yeah, you've got
so,
your own. I understand
yeah,
for you. Yeah.
yeah. So it hits a little close to home for me. And people use the courts to muzzle you, and then they do an end around and spread a bunch of lies about you, and you can't really respond to it effectively. So yeah, I'm not really a big fan of that, but I don't know the ins and outs of the case or anything. Damages, I don't know. To me, that would seem. Did that really hurt Montegraph? I don't know. Um, do you think it did? Right? Like I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think so. But uh,
Yeah.
well, go
Well,
ahead.
I try to avoid talking about the actual thing itself because Monty, when he put together his lawsuit, he named me in the actual like opening of it. So
Oh,
I'm technically like a witness, so I try to avoid that because this whole thing today was about like the rules. They had an argument over what rules they were going to play by. So it was like what rules apply. The rules of Colorado or the rules of Minnesota. And I could talk about that all day long because it doesn't matter to the case. Like either way, they're going to play by a set of rules, and then what happened, what I saw, what I think or felt doesn't matter at that point. And then eventually, at some point, if they want to talk to me or if I get deposed or whatever, I want to be able to be fair to both sides and not have been running my mouth one way or another for this thing. It's kind of how
yeah,
I'm
I mean that
looking
makes
into it.
sense. And the way you were, I didn't see all of the stream earlier, but the
Hmm.
way you were talking, I figured you were mentioned in the lawsuit
Hmm.
in some way or some manner. Might be
Hmm.
called to the stand. So,
Yeah,
and you're a lawyer, so you know more about than I do. But I figured you're trying to keep your powder dry a little bit
just a little bit.
on some of the stuff. Yeah, that makes sense. But I did want to ask you, and I talked about it
Yeah,
on my show. What's
sure.
up
Go
with
for it.
the violent turn against Rekieta?
I mean, I wouldn't say it's like a violent turn, but I think a lot of people. I know Nick has said everything's great with him, but it doesn't look like it to me, and I know other people feel that way. Um, I know whatever he's got going on in his life, is his issues, and everybody's got their own problems. God bless. I hope everybody gets their shit worked out. Whether it's me, whether it's you,
We'll see.
Nick, I want everybody to get their shit worked out.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people ain't saying that to you, but
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. But I don't know. It just seems,
it
and
it's
maybe I overstated it, but it seemed like you kind of made your career here on the line at least.
mhm,
And I saw the Metal Gear Solid clip the other day. I've seen
yeah.
some of your recent commentary, and it seems to have taken a really nasty turn against
Well,
him.
I guess I'll say it like this. I never meant it to be nasty. And certainly if Nick were to tell me, hey man, I feel like those, because I made some before and Nick's like, some of this is fucking hilarious. And he's texted me before about that. If he were to say right now, this is way too much, dude, you're really I feel like you're dogging me now, not just poking. I'd say I'd apologize to him and I'd stop. I'd stop. And I realize, yeah, with the whole Metal Gear Solid thing, yeah, I kind of went far with that one. But I really want what's best for him. But I think there's also times if somebody does something goofy or they're, if they're stepping on a rake, I think it's okay to laugh at them, to argue I can't laugh at that person. I don't ever want to be in that position where you say you can't make fun of that person if they do something goofy or cringe. But for Nick's situation, I think those are issues. But I think really the whole thing he did where the John guy, I don't know if you heard that. Did you see that one? Or,
Yeah, and I was glad you
Yeah.
go ahead and bring up your points on that because I
Yeah.
got a few as well. Go ahead.
Yeah, like, and I get the idea that, okay, this guy may have been fucking with him, so he's gonna fuck back, and I get that. Fine. If somebody comes at you and they're giving you shit, clap back at
Oh,
them.
you saw what I said then. Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
I have no problem with you doing that. I have no problem coming at somebody like that. They come at you, you come right back. And yeah, I know, Chad, you're gonna joke about the way I said that. Fine. But I think there's something to be said, especially in, for Nick and I, the idea you go to somebody and you speak to them in confidence. Okay. But I also feel there's a little bit more of confidence in that type of a matter, I think should be protected a little bit more. And I also argue you are an attorney and Nick's an attorney.
Yeah. I'm not.
As
I
of
wish I
now,
was.
like if you were to go look at Nick, it's like, was that guy going to take anything? If I talk to him about anything, would he keep that in confidence? Because if he gets mad at me, he could go out there and run his mouth, where I wouldn't do that because I try to I want to show people like, yes, what you tell me, I take, until you tell me I can say it, will never get said again to another single soul. Even you, if you came to me and you DM me later, hey, I got to talk to you about something, I question, and you came to me and told me all kinds of shit, until you tell me I can talk about it or it has to come out through the course of something, I'm not telling a soul about it. And even if that's just a consultation, whatever it is, I take that to the grave. Like, and I take it, there's all kinds of secrets and shit I've gotten. I've been doing this 10 years that I will never tell another soul until I get permission. So I think that's critical. And for him to do that, I think is very much, and I think at this point, basically if you Google this guy, you're like, I want to hire this guy as an attorney. You're like, fuck, if he gets mad at me and gets a couple in him, he's going to tell everybody about all my business. I just, he's got to get right with himself. And I don't know what that is. I don't know what he needs to do, but I think he's got to get his shit sorted out a little bit.
So I take that and I understand what you're saying there. But
Yeah.
what would you say if I told you that John/Captain Manning had revealed that on Kiwi Farms, I don't know, 2 years ago almost, and that I read it and already knew that story, and that Kiwi Farms had read it as well, and that's how they were able to deduce who John was?
I saw that part. Yeah. No, I saw that. And I saw that there. And I think part of that is, yes, this was already something people knew about, but I don't think a lot of people knew about that. I think there's also the issue of it might be out there, but I don't know if that's your place to really bring that up like that. If that person wasn't, then again, though, if you were in crisis, why would you share with the world that you were in crisis like that? That's a separate matter of people liking to overshare or people liking to share to get, to get noticed or power leveling and all that. I just don't think that's proper for someone who wants to be, holding themselves out in the position they're in. I don't think it's a proper way you do it. If you want to go after him for saying he's a, loser, lives by himself, you can make all kinds of allegations, being a broke deadbeat on Social Security and all that. You can make all that crap you want to, without also saying they're sitting there crying about trying to kill themselves and how that all worked out. Because not all of it was fully disclosed. And I think that what Nick did was expanded upon it much more than what was in that post. Because I've seen that post since then. And Nick talked about it a lot more. Yeah. And that's why, okay, great. He didn't breach too much confidence, but what he did breach was quite a bit. I mean, there's more to that than what Captain Manning wrote out, which, there's that. I mean, and I
Yeah,
think
but it
there's
wasn't quite how it's portrayed, is all I'm saying, right? Like it wasn't a full reveal. I
it
guess he
wasn't.
did expound upon it some. You're right there, but like the guy was already talking about it. The guy posting his thread like 20
Mhm.
times a day, and going back to stress on Rekieta and maybe he's not himself. And again, I won't comment on that. I don't,
Mhm.
but I will say this. Having thousands of people, I'm experienced with this, having thousands of people after you every single day making
It's
up
gonna.
lies, and maybe there's some truth mixed in there too, right? There usually is.
Yeah.
But there's this machine against you every single day, just cranking it out. And his threads are even wilder. The thread they have on him is even wilder than what they have on me.
Oh shit! I
Right?
know
It's
that
growing
thing
10
grows every
pages, 20
day.
pages a day. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I would argue that could put some stress on your life as well,
Oh,
right?
I that's the thing. I can't only imagine. I mean, especially even for you, every day, my pantsu, my Morris, my Vickers, you hear about it every day, like your fucking truck and the cartels, and you hear about it every fucking day, and yeah, yeah, I can only imagine how that feels, and you hear about it all the time. So no, I don't doubt that gets to you after a while, and that is the shitty part about it. And even when you're just trying to do your own stream, it's not like you can you shut off the internet and ignore it. Well, like if you
Well,
and
you
Nick
can't get away from it
well, if you
because
shut off
this is
the
your
internet
job.
though, yeah, this is your
Yeah.
this is your thing. So it's not like you can I don't know. You could probably become like the governor of
Yucatan.
your state down here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you could.
Yeah, but yeah,
Yep.
you said it right. I mean, there's no
Mhm.
escaping it. And even when you don't want to talk about it, and again, you mentioned some stuff. I'll be clear, I'm not talking about any of that stuff, and I haven't talked about any of that. I want to say on the
Sure,
record.
sure.
And I haven't mentioned anybody's name in that regard, etc.
I'm sorry.
But
Hold on, Ralph. Let me apologize. I
sure.
apologize for that, Ralph. Yeah, he has not said anything. I was just using those examples of what people bring
Right.
up that they try to drive home every day and fuck with you.
Right.
Whether they feel right, wrong, or indifferent, they're using it to get at you.
Right, and I'll say that it goes back to what I said earlier. There's a lot of stuff
Mhm,
I legally can't talk about, and it's
mhm,
unfortunate when everybody else can talk about it, including people close to the situation, and
mhm.
it's given credibility when it's not credible. Some things being said, etc., and I can't actually refute it. I can't really, go on the record without getting in trouble. And so it's not like that for Rekieta, as far as I know, on most of this stuff, but it is like every time you get dragged into it. And I've seen him doing his regular stream, saw him doing his regular stream the other day, and it's all these comments nonstop about his family, about, oh, you drink too much, this and that. And he's just trying to go through an article, I think it was about the Supreme Court or something, right? And there's no escaping it every single day. I mean, you could see how that would be a problem, right? And it's been going on for almost a year now, I guess, with him.
She has muted. Sorry. No, I understand that for Nick, and that's where I think though I think Nick has really been able to. And I'm not trying to knock you, Ralph, or make fun of you here, but I think Nick was in a position where he really could kind of control how things were going. And I think I don't know what his deal is, and I get it. I think probably for Nick a little bit of it. Certainly I'm this way at times. You tend to like when something happens, and I've been a very big contrarian most of my life. That's just how I roll. I'm not afraid, like I do whatever and I do the other fucking thing just to fuck with people. And I get that. And I think for Nick, that might be part of the issue here is, well, fuck all these people. I'm not going to do what they want or whatever they say just because they're saying it. But I feel like Nick was he's been in such a position where he could direct things in a way. And I'll say for you, what's happened to you as an example of, well, I've already seen what's happened before. So I have some idea on how I could navigate one way works versus another way not working and how would I react and respond to things. And I just feel like Nick has kind of been like, oh, fuck it. And just done whatever, went on his own path, which I don't see why. I feel like there's enough examples on the internet. You can say like, okay, well, I can weave between the landmines a little bit. And I don't think he did that.
Well, you mentioned me, and speaking from experience, there is a point where you can control things. But you're taking fire every single day. People
Mhm.
are coming at you with bullshit every single day, and it's hard not to respond to that stuff. And I know sometimes you shouldn't, or you should take a different path or a different response. But once the snowball, starts rolling downhill, things are out of your hands.
Mhm.
I mean, what could he come out and say now besides he was going to hang himself or something that would please some of these people? I mean, it's rabid against him, and I've talked about this. I don't really know. It seems out of proportion. I with me, I would say there's more stuff going on for people to
Mhm.
seize on or whatever or make a big deal. But I see Rekieta and they say, oh, there was some fake bitch in his chat, or
Mhm.
you know stuff about his
Yes, that's
personal
the
life that they don't
highlight
even
of it,
know.
comparatively speaking.
Right, or
Yes.
he's drinking too much or whatever. It's and I'm thinking, what? Why are they so you know hell bent on destroying this guy? Now I have a couple theories. A lot of his fan base was built around Kiwi Farms, and then once he had a falling out with Null, and Null starts talking about him weekly or whatever, multiple times per week on his show, that the Kiwi farmers see that as a green light
Mhm.
and think they've been betrayed, etc. And that seems to be what's behind a lot of the bloodlust, because I see, it. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like there's as much there to justify the response that they've given him.
Well, I get what you're saying. Yes, compared to like the crap you've dealt with, this you're like, I wish it was just that bad.
Right?
Probably.
I'm sitting there saying, "Wow, I wish I could trade places."
Yeah.
Are you
Yeah.
serious?
I'll deal with
I
Mandy
mean,
every day.
yeah, I was
Yeah.
about to say, yeah.
Mandy, that doesn't mean he wants to talk to you. Don't start DMing him. I'm
Yeah, I
trying to
mean,
help
it
you out
seems
here.
minor. I
Uh,
appreciate that. It seems minor in comparison to me and some others, right? And I
yeah.
see stuff I'm going
And
through, others going
it
through.
is minor relatively compared to what a lot of people are dealing with. But for Nick, where he was starting out at before all this happened, this is a pretty big deal overall. So,
I mean, I think it's, I guess I think people had the wrong impression as well. Now, maybe you could argue that he gave them that impression or what have you, but I never took Nick Rekieta as a minister or something like that, right? And of course, I've met
mhm.
him several times. I never was under that impression that he, I knew he had a good family and all this stuff, but I never, I don't know. It seems like people feel like they were had or something, or they
Well,
were
a lot of people
snookered.
do feel that way. And that's where, I think that's comes down to like, well, what did they reasonably expect and what were they reasonably given to rely on? And I think that's where people are still trying to work through that. But a lot of people feel like they were. But I get what you're saying. Yeah, were people really, or did people read into him
Did they
more
just want to
than?
see that, right?
Yeah,
Like
did they read into him all this, and did they foist all this upon him? And if there's people we like to see the good in them. We like to see ourselves in them. Or was there some of it Nick was also, okay, yeah, well, I'm working with it too. I think there's a little bit both ways there, but obviously people are going to say that they feel like that they got had, and Nick's going to say, well, I didn't do anything. I did nothing more than, I'm the same person as I've always been. And that's where people I think are going to make their decisions. And I think, people are made their decision right now.
Okay, so I'll ask you two questions. First off,
Hmm.
what did you think of him? Did you see him that way? And then second off, if you were giving him advice,
Yeah.
we're here talking about it. What would you tell him to do?
I mean, ultimately, I saw him the way he came across to me was not necessarily like the trad dad thing, but yeah, he was kind of close to that. He was in that vein and was very much like for where he is compared to now is like 180 degrees to me. So like what I would tell Nick is I'd say, you can go back to, I get, right now he's saying I don't want to go back to what I was doing. I didn't like any of that stuff or whatever. Okay, fine. But what you're doing now isn't working. What you've been doing for lately hasn't really been working. I know you want to sit there and talk about relationships, but nobody wants to talk about that stuff. I mean, there's some people who can talk about those things. I don't think people like that packaging from you. That's like me if I wanted to go talk about another subject, nobody might give a shit about it. Well, but that's something I really want to do. Well, that's, that nobody's going to want to listen to me. I think he needs to just, I think he just needs to take a moment and like figure out what he really wants to do. I know he kind of goes back and forth, but take a day or two off and just figure out like, what is it you really want to do? How do you want to get there? Because I feel like he's doing a lot of reacting and going back and forth. Okay, well, in trying to jump to both sides and, like, okay, well, now we're doing Lost up. And then, he wants to go back to what it is he wants to do. And that's my biggest thing for him is I just think he needs to take a deep breath and figure out what he wants. Because what he's doing right now, this going back and forth, is clearly not what he wants. And that's going to be more destructive to him than going one way or another, I think. Because if you're trying to do both things, it's going to get worse. And I just want him to stop and take a breath for a second and figure out what he wants to do and just go do it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's kind of especially when you do streams all the time, multiple times per week, it can get to where you want to talk about some things that interest you sometimes or whatever that may not interest your core people. And you have to balance that out with, why people came there in the first place. And it's something I've had to think about from time to time, or I want to talk about. Sometimes I'll talk about sports. And, vast majority of my people don't want to hear me talk about sports. So if I turned it into, the kill stream into a sports recap show, that probably wouldn't work. So I understand what you're saying there, but I don't know. It just seems like the bloodlust is so high, and I have it too. That, a lot of people just want to see him fall. And I don't really know
how
you get some of that back.
But that's a lot of people in general, though. People like to see people fall. I mean, I think that's kind of human nature to an extent. So.
Yeah, fair.
It's not just people rooting against you. It's not just people rooting against Nick. I mean, just in general, he loves, in society in general, he likes seeing people get taken down a peg.
That's true. I think people like a good redemption comeback story too.
Well, yeah, and there's always a way.
Not that he needs redemption, but that's the term, redemption arc or whatever.
Yeah, comeback story.
Yeah, and I don't know. I just feel like he's been treated a little unfairly in regards to, it just seems out of proportion. Like I said earlier, with what he's actually accused of doing or whatever. Sure. So that's kind of my whole problem with it. And I saw you jumping on him. I don't know. It just seemed a little strange. Do you think you're still cool with him, or have you talked to him? Or
I've reached out. When there's times where I've said like, "Hey, is this okay?" Like, "Hey, just so you know, I'm like the jokes are kind of like just happen, like it's." And he said, "Yeah, it's all good." It's been a little like he said, what he's been going through lately, like the past like week or so. I reached out to him like, "Is there anything I can do? What do you need? Anything like that?" And he hasn't said anything, but also I know he's been very radio silent about it anyway. So I don't know as of late. So,
well,
like I said, whatever it is, I'm hoping it's getting worked out.
Well, that happens too. You silo yourself off when it's one of these things going on, which really, everybody handles it differently, but I've handled it that way too. And it's not really the way to do it. If I had one just minor critique of it, because once you silo yourself off, other people aren't hearing you and other broadcasts and seeing you everywhere, and just the negative messages out there, and you can't really refute it. Just even me being here, I saw some people shocked that I showed up, right? And there's a reason for that, because I haven't been doing many outside appearances ever, well, not ever, but not very much, right? Unless it's a friendly field. I haven't done too many in the last couple of years.
And I'll say, you came on to here and you didn't know how I was going to do this. So
no, I didn't. And I said some pretty mean things. So yeah, I didn't know how you would do this.
I was people have said to me on the internet, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, it wasn't. Well, sometimes people take these promos, or I'm talking like I talk shit about Legal Mindset, and then I saw video after video about that, and I'm thinking, man, I was just talking shit. Like, I don't even know this guy.
Yeah.
But some people were like, Rob's on the warpath and he's going after this guy. I guess I technically did, but it was just me, cutting a promo on my show.
Yeah.
didn't go after him, quote unquote, and
No.
start pulling up his record or his job history and critique, getting personal like that. I was just
Sure.
talking shit about the guy. So
Yeah, well, like yeah. So yeah, no, that's true, Ralph. But hey,
anyway,
it's
thank you
I
for
know
having
you
me
gotta,
on.
yeah, I
Yeah,
know you
I
gotta,
got to go do my show
yeah,
anyway.
get
I
the
was
kill
about to
stream
jet.
going, guys.
Yeah.
Killstream.live. There you go.
I want to say this. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
over on Rumble. Killstream. If you search it, Killstream Live is the channel, I believe, or it just says Killstream. One of those. But I'll say this. I saw you shout out Elissa clips earlier, and people falsely blame me for that as well. I had absolutely nothing to do with that, and I know it was me in the video. It was me talking shit about legal mindset. Actually, now that we mention it, I didn't do shit on the video. Didn't flag it. Didn't do anything to it. I'm happy to see. She said she got let out of jail early
back, yeah.
on Twitter. I'm happy to see that. I use her channel often on my show. Now, I'm usually making a different point than what she's trying to make in the clip that she posted, right?
Yeah, I've seen.
Yeah,
Killstream. So
right, yeah, but it was, I use that channel a lot, and so I would absolutely not do that, and haven't done that, and I'm glad to see that she's back. So I just want to state that as well, and I appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
Well, no, thank you for coming on, Ralph. I appreciate it, man. I'll see you around.
You're welcome.
Take care, man.
Later.
Yep. See ya. Well, when I woke up this morning, I wasn't planning on that. So, Ethan Ralph, everybody, on the kill stream over on Rumble, kill stream. Yeah, he's going to be over there. He's going to be firing. Oh, shit. I think he's, 140. Yeah, he's due about to start right now. So, should be starting any time. Yeah, next, guys, you can't believe who we got next now sitting down in the queue. No, there's nobody else, guys. We're done. I demand more guests. I got things I got to do, guys, today. Whew. Yeah, pull Jim out of my magic lawyer hat now. Yeah, hold on.